Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe, here with me is my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
We start this podcast of the Elephant Tower, which a lot of people have apparently wanted us to do this for a while. Second most to the Red Nails, which we just finished. It's kind of funny because Grimdark, the largest Conan tubing channel, was really pushing for us week after week for us to do this and Barsoom content. If we do a Barsoom Book Club podcast, that'll be on our Sci-Fi Corner channel, not here, because this is fantasy. We don't want to clog ourselves down with the algorithm more than what we've already done by adding sci-fi content on a fantasy channel. Like I said, go check us out on the Sci-Fi Corner if you want to see that kind of thing. We'll probably end up making a community post here about that when the time comes for us to finally read Barsoom, which we will read down the road, but it'll take a while because we've got a lot of content to cover in the next few months. Anyways, the story starts in a tavern in Mali, probably close to Maui. I'm joking. Couldn't resist that joke. We get a really good description of teenage Conan, who's about 15 years old at this time. You ended up commenting that the way he behaves really feels like a teenage version of Conan.
And the way the other people treat him, like he's some dumb kid. The fact that Conan replies with
a lot more heat and impulsiveness than what he later does.
Because later, he is impulsive, but
it's tempered.
It's tempered.
Yeah.
And we learn a bit about, I'll get on some of that later.
They also treat him that way because he's a barbarian. Part of it is barbarian. The other part is just he's very, very young. The secret of the Elephant Tower is spoken of in hushed tones. The secret of Yara the wizard, or the sorcerer, or whatever. It's a guy from Koth who ends up, in particular, mocking and insulting and deriding Conan. The quote is a very philosophical one that harkens back to a lot of Howard's philosophies. I'm going to read the full quote. This is worth analyzing the entire paragraph to an extent, or at least part of the paragraph. He saw no particular humor in it. It was too new to civilization to understand its discourtesies. So that, yeah, it's interesting because Howard's basically suggesting that the more barbarous a people are, the more polite they are. I don't fully agree with that. Civilized men are more discourteous than savages because they know they can be impolite without having their skulls split. Yes, I'll actually fully concur. Yeah, that is very much the case. I see it a lot these days. And I think especially on the internet, you have so many people being rude on the internet to the extent that it's just disconcerting. Even in regular day-to-day life. In turn, though, because of his rudeness, this Kothian gets his skull split by Conan, proving Howard's point about civilized men being ruder than uncivilized ones, but paying the price for their rudeness. It is a very advanced philosophical point. The more uncivilized you are, the more polite you have to be for fear of your skull getting split. That's a very good point, because if you offend someone, they're going to get angry and they're going to want to give payback.
And this guy should have known, because Conan, even in his mid-teens, is said to be quite tall and strong. Teens don't have the best impulse control.
Yep, and this is the only story in which Conan is described as wearing a loincloth. Of course, this image would become popularized, much to my chagrin, because I'm just tired of the loincloth look. It's so irritating and tiring when Conan usually wears armor. Anyways, sorry for being annoyed. Conan listens in on a discussion of philosophy and theology between a Zamoran, and he thinks they're all kind of crazy. He doesn't understand the point of this conversation. To him, it's mere semantics, and what's interesting is that Conan actually loves this sort of discussion, but he doesn't like to split hairs about little minor differences. He wants to discuss larger issues in theology and philosophy than splitting hairs over minor little quotes here and there, because Conan is that much smarter than these guys, to be quite honest. He asks a lot after the secret of the Elephant Tower, and it's said that the king of Zamora fears Yara more than he fears death, and that this is why the king of Zamora has become a drunk. Wow.
Terrifying.
When the king fears you that much. And of course, we meet up with your favorite character of this short story,
Taurus.
Taurus of Nemedia. He basically turns Conan into his apprentice for one chapter.
We see where Conan learns a lot about the Black Lotus.
Yeah, actually, this story is basically a perfect lead into the story of the Queen of the Black Coast in that regard. Yeah, you're right. Well, what Taurus uses for the powder and whatnot is derived from a technique of extracting the pollen from the Black Lotuses in the Far East in Kitai.
And we see that Taurus also teaches Conan sometimes you can't just go ramming through. You touch a problem with a needle.
Okay, I just checked my notes. The yellow-skulled priests of Yun are the ones who extract the pollen from, the Black Lotus. I wish Howard had actually written more about Katai and written stories over there so that we get to see his Far East. Get an Asian fantasy out of Howard. I wonder if any later writers ended up approaching this. I'm pretty sure Roy Thomas probably did, but I'd be curious to see if any of the novels touch upon Katai. And of course, we get mention of lions in the garden of Yara. I wonder if it's the European lions from a rather more ancient period of European history. Now, these lions were said to be larger than African lions, but they were hunted into extinction because European monarchs loved hunting them because as a show of manhood and masculinity. I like that idea a lot.
It would make Conan Taurus look a lot better.
Well, Conan probably kills quite a few of these as king and even as a warrior, so it makes him look cool, I think. And they climb up a rope, and Taurus, of course, dies like a schmuck to a spider, and Conan, of course, doesn't. He kills the spider because he's cool. I mean, he's Conan. And then, scales up the stairs to where no man has ever trod before him, except maybe Yara. And that's where we'll leave you. What did you think of these first two chapters?
I really enjoyed it. It makes me wish that we got more stories of Conan in his youth, how he came to be.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm glad Taurus dies where he does. I mean, no offense, but I don't want to see any more Taurus.
It gives an emotional impact to Conan, and it teaches him that you have to think your way through things.
Yeah. And I really like this story. This is Grimdark, the top Conan tuber favorite Conan story, apparently. This is his favorite. This was the second Conan story I ever read. I really enjoy it. Although so far of all of those I've read, caught between liking Phoenix on the Sword the most and Red Nails because I really like Valeria. As a character, I really like Valeria. On the other hand, Phoenix on the Sword, just Conan, just in his prime to an extent. Though I'm excited for Hour of the Dragon. I don't think I've got much more to say.
What else is there to say?
Stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button as though you were Conan smashing his enemies to pieces.